do some, eat up some minutes and eat up some meters for you.
Well, you kind of look at him as a replacement for, well, Junior Moores and Matt Cook are the two front rowers that have left. So Bionic and Matungi are the two that come in. I think they've upgraded with the stage of where those players are all at in their careers.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of Cass, they have signed Huddersfield Giants centre Jordan Turner on a one-year contract. The 31-year-old, who can also play in the halves and as a loose forward, has previously had spells at Salford, Hull FC, St Helens and the Canberra Raiders.
And Wakefield Trinity have signed Samoa standoff Mason Lino from the National Rugby League side Newcastle Knights on a 3-year deal. Lino, 26, was the understudy to New Zealand playmaker Sean Johnson at the Auckland-based Warriors before joining Australian club Newcastle in 2018. He's got 5 tries from 34 games in the NRL and replaces Bradford-bound Danny Brough in coach Chris Chester's squad.
I was floored at this news.
I was wondering if you were going to make the joke or if I was going to make the joke. I don't know much about Lino or Lino, so
it's Mason Lino in a very Kiwi way. I've seen him a little bit for Newcastle and a bit at the Warriors as well. He's got potential. I think this is a very good kind of under the radar signing for Trin, I would say.
He's more of a runner than a playmaker, isn't he?
The downside is he's quite similar to Miller.
Yeah,
that's my downside. He's not a replacement for Brough. He's not like for like in terms of his kicking game or anything like that. So that's my slight question. But we all know that halves are a bit, you don't necessarily have to have that kicker/runner split anymore. But
well, we've probably just had a grand final with two teams that don't have a controlling halfback in terms of the kicking game, and that worked out well for everyone, didn't it? So
yeah, true.
Good luck to him in Wakefield. Warrington Wolves have signed London Broncos prop Rob Butler on a 2-year contract. The 22-year-old won international recognition with England Knights in the win over Jamaica in October 2019 and was the only championship-based player picked by Sean Wayne in the last England squad. He made a total of 40 appearances for the Broncos and featured for them during their 2019 Super League campaign, and he was on the shortlist for Young Player of the Year last year on the SLP Awards, and he was very good for London, wasn't he, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player, and getting him on a free, I think this could be one of the signings of next year. I mean, he's a strong, powerful forward. He's got pretty good hands, and he's got that will to win that we've seen from top forwards. I think he could be an outside bet at the World Cup squad.
I think if you sort of get him on the right track, kind of conditioning-wise, you've got a Chris Hill replacement there at Warrington. He can play a long time in that side if you get his conditioning right.
The grubby shitheader has been a later addition to his game. He wasn't always like that.
Yeah,
it's very true.
KR have announced that Academy hooker Charlie Kavanagh will link up with the club's first team with a 2-year contract. He's taken up a part-time role with Robin so he can focus on his education whilst at Leeds Beckett.
Catalan forward Paul Segui has signed a new 1-year contract with the club. The 23-year-old joined the Dragons Academy in 2015 and made his Super League debut the following season. Segui has 14 first-team appearances under his belt.
He's an underplayed player, I think, Segui. I think he played, didn't he, in the semi-final last week after getting a bit of a run towards the back end. He was maybe their only player who didn't disgrace themselves against Salford in that second half of that game as well a few weeks ago. I've always liked Paul Segui, but on the flip side for Catalan Dragons, news was confirmed today that Captain Remy Casti has been released by the club after 14 seasons at the Perpignan-based side. He joined them in 2006 for the Dragons' inaugural Super League season. He made 336 appearances with the club, as well as spending a year with the NRL side Sydney Roosters in 2014, where he won a minor premiership before returning to lead the Dragons to Challenge Cup glory in 2018. I mean, at his age, 35, it's understandable that they might want to look to get younger at the Dragons, but big boots to fill in Perpignan.
It is.
Yeah.
Miss him.
Sorry, David.
I think they'll really miss him. I think he's almost a spiritual leader of the pack at the club.
Yeah, he's been a fantastic player. 2 Dream Team appearances over the time for Remy Castille.
I mean, do you think he'll rock up at Toulouse?
It would be a good signing for them if they got to the Super League. I think if they didn't get into the Super League, he'd be better off maybe going and semi-retiring to the French leagues at this stage.
I was going to say, I think he's probably going to be on the radar. Whoever gets that 12th spot, I would say.
Yeah, just for his leadership around the club, you would think. Yeah. A couple of other news items from today. David, you might have a view on this one. Huddersfield Giants have signed England Knights forward Jack Ashworth from Super League rival St Helens on a 2-year contract. The 25-year-old made 43 appearances for Saints and has also spent time on loan with Rochdale, Sheffield and Lee.
He's one of those players where I form an early opinion, and it turns out not to be right. So Scott Moore was one of those where I always kept saying to my son, Scott Moore's going to be good, you know. He's going to be good. You watch, he'll be good, Scott Moore, and he never really was. And Jack Ashworth falls.
I don't know. Have you not seen him driving a sports car?
Yeah, I'm talking about rugby on the rugby field rather than off it. And Jack Ashworth kind of falls into that camp a bit. He's been around for quite a long time. He's older than you think, and I always felt like he just about was going to break into the first team. Just about was, going to be the next big second rower or even prop towards the end. He put in a performance. He was played against Salford in the grand final last year and looked good. And then, but never really established himself. So I wish him all the best at Huddersfield. I think there's a player in there, but we didn't manage to get it out.
I mean, because it's just social media stories and not confirmed, we can't really talk about some of the other circumstances around Jack Ashworth in the last 12 months or so. But I get the sense that maybe other players stepped up to the plate more as a professional sportsman than Jack Ashworth maybe has done. And so the likes of Knowles and Lees, and maybe now you've got people like Wingfield and people like that who have kind of stepped up ahead of him, and that's why Saints have been comfortable letting him leave, even though he has played in a couple of grand finals in those limited amount of appearances that he's had.
Yeah. And Joe Batchelor as well is still doing a similar sort of, proposing a similar sort of role for Saints as well.
Talking about unsavoury off-the-field stuff, Super League side Warrington Wolves have cancelled the contract of centre Anthony Gelling by mutual consent. The 30-year-old joined the wire from Championship side Widnes Vikings ahead of 2020. The Cook Islands international scored 7 tries in 13 appearances in all competitions for Warrington. He is, of course, waiting for his court hearing next year for violence against his partner earlier this year. So I think Warrington are sensible to distance themselves from Anthony Gelling at this stage.
Presumably he can't leave the country until that's all sorted.
Well, that was the weird thing about some of the news articles I've read, the expectation that he would be returning down under. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The legalities around that, and obviously we can't. He's innocent until proven guilty in the around the assault charges that he's been charged with, of course. So but yeah, does it feel like his time's done and the era of him being man of the people slipped away this year, Al?
I don't know why they let him back in. They should have kicked him out when it was first charged. For me, I didn't understand why they suspended him and then let him back in. It feels inconsistent. So for me, it didn't make any sense, the kind of the initial stand and then the backtracking. So, and then now the cancellation. That it just seems pretty inconsistent from my point of view. All of this happening whilst it's still an unproven allegation.
Yep. Let's move on to the Championship then. Your Bradford Bulls, Alan.
Do you think he'll rock up at Lee? Just seems to be the sort of
What, like at the end of a speed chase down the A580, or play for them? Because it's Swinton where he might end up to play if that's the benchmark.
Moving on. Bradford Bulls have confirmed the signing of forward Dan Fleming. The Welsh international ended the season with Castleford Tigers on trial, making one appearance for the club. It's his second spell with the Bulls, having previously played for Toronto and Halifax. I'm getting a feeling.
Sorry, go on.
I'm getting a feeling deja vu, because last time we signed Dan Fleming, it was from Castleford. It's like it's a very weird repeating of history.
Is he a good player, Alan? I don't know him.
For the Championship.
Oh yeah. As he step up into Super League. Unproven potential, I would say.
He does have an incredibly straight head/neck.
He's quite tall, isn't he?
Yeah, well, there's no like change in angle between his head and his neck. It's just one sort of long, bulbous, structure.
What's next, Tim?
Bit like a sort of fatter version of Richie Mabber's drainpipe head. Next, Halifax have confirmed the retention of Paul Greeley. The towering back row returns to the club after initially agreeing to join Toronto Wolfpack for the 2021 season.
He's another man who, front on, you wouldn't see there's a chin. What about another former Saints man at London to talk about, David?
Yeah, London prop Greg Richards has committed to the club for the 2021 season. And I really can't believe this, 25-year-old Cumbrian, he must be older than that, has made 23 appearances for the Broncos since arriving in 2019 following spells with St Helens and Lee. He's another one of these guys who you look at him and you think he should make a good player. Big lad, always seems to have good hands, but doesn't punch his weight at all, and never did when he was playing at Saints anyway.
No, he was a guy who never made any post-contact yards.
No, at all. He just hit the defensive line and went to the floor.
But he's a good player for the Championship level. Jody Sharif will take on a new role as player and assistant coach at Oldham in 2021. The 34-year-old prop has signed a new one-year contract to be a player as well as the assistant coach to Matt Diskin with the Ruffians next season.
Dewsbury have signed young hooker Reece Butterworth from Huddersfield for 2021. The 21-year-old made his Super League debut for the Giants in September, but's moved to Dewsbury in a bid to gain more first-team action.
Is this a sign that Huddersfield are going to try and make a permanent move for Brandon Moore? But it sounds like that's unlikely because he apparently has a good off-the-field job in his part-time playing at Halifax. But they've got no other hookers other than any other business now, have they?
No, the whole thing was with Butterworth that he was providing he was not that dissimilar to any other business. So I don't know. We'll see.
The other line from the Championship coming out today is Lee have signed Wigan prop Ben Flower for the 2021 season. The 33-year-old has made more than 200 appearances in the Super League for Crusaders and for Wigan. He's also earned 16 caps for his native Wales. So that ends a 9-year career at Wigan, which will be best remembered for him winning 3 grand finals, won't it?
Well, certainly
there's another memory about a grand final that's springing to mind. Can't remember which one it is though.
No, we've all forgotten that.
We'll miss him.
It was a poor for him to end his career without being able to be part of the grand final side, but a little bit of a blessing in disguise for the sport that he wasn't part of the grand final set up for Wigan versus Saints this time after what happened in 2014, I think. We can now move on to League One news, but actually it's just Newcastle Thunder news.
Yeah, Newcastle